We're going to talk about today is a contract and why a contract is so important as a foundation of any plan that you have as a parent to keep your child safe. And every parent should have a plan. God, we like to say if you fail to plan, you're going to plan to fail. And so this is just one of the pieces, the foundational pieces that is so important when you have that plan to keep your kids safe. And if we haven't met before, my name is Mike Lemon, and I'm a retired cyber cop, and I have 5 children of myself, so I'm in this with you. I wanted to keep my kids safe, your kids safe online. And a foundational piece, which I believe is the most important thing a parent can do with a child, is have a contract. Right. So a lot of questions are asked, why do you need a contract? Why would you even have a contract? And there's a number of reasons, but just the biggest reason is actually going through the process of creating a contract or going through a already pre-built contract. And at the end, I'll give you an example that you can have for free as well. Is just the time you take and having that open communication, that discussion with your child about what's expected of them and what's out there and why you're wanting to make sure that they're safe is so important. So really starting that communication and continuing that communication is very important. Trust is another one. All right. We'll talk about the parts of this and how it builds trust. But I see so many parents on different forums saying these things are happening to my child, or my child is doing this thing. They're sneaking online at night. They are doing all these things that they're not supposed to be doing. How do I get them to stop? And the foundational problem with that is they don't have trust. The child hasn't earned trust from the parent. And so we like to say, if there's no trust, there's no device. That is a big piece of that will stop majority of the problems that parents are having. And a contract is going to help you enforce that. And then the third part is it's the real deal, right? So we don't have contracts because we go get something for Burger King, or we're going to go play ball at the park. We have contracts for big things, business deals, buying a house, buying a car, things that are very important to us. They sign contracts. And so we're showing our kids that this is very important to us, and they take it very seriously. It's not just a piece of paper. There's a contract. They're going to sign it and agree to these terms. And so really, what does a contract do? It does a number of things, but the biggest thing it does is it establishes expectations. So there's no misunderstanding of what they're supposed to do, when they're supposed to do it, and there's no misunderstanding of what your response will be, either positive or negative. So when you have those expectations written down that you can go back and see, you just set the bar for how they're supposed to react or act online as a young adolescent, preteen, or teen. And so when you set that bar, they know what they're supposed to do, and most of the time they're going to rise to it. Now, we understand that kids make mistakes, and this is why we want to make sure that they do this as children and not as adults. Because even though they can do things now that can affect the rest of their life, when they're doing these things as adults, it will definitely affect the rest of their life. So we want to make sure that they have those expectations and they know exactly what they're supposed to do. And through that initial communication, they know why they're supposed to do this. Because you want them to enter in adulthood, not carry that social media baggage that so many parents or so many kids are turning into adults and having. Second thing it does is it sets those boundaries. We want to make sure that our children are staying those boundaries. We're going to have a set boundaries for if they are, adolescents. That's one boundary. If they're preteens, that's another boundary. If they're teens, that's another boundary. If they're getting ready to be adults, maybe that's when it's time to really open it up and say, all right, let's see how you do on your own. This is a way to gradually increase their freedom up until the point where they can turn into adults and they're on their own. The third thing it'll do, it will establish punishments, right? It'll establish those things that if they do wrong, then this is going to be the punishment for it. And we'll talk about this a little bit more in detail here in just a minute. But it's the kind of the carrot and the stick. This is the stick. If you do these things wrong, or if you don't do what we agree to, then this is the punishment. Whether it's a day, 2 days without the device, whether the device is gone, are there no-goes that if you do this, you're done. Establish those. That's establishing the boundaries. So the third or the fourth part is giving them a path forward, right? If we just say no, 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 no to our kids, they're going to stop listening to us. But if they know mom and dad want me to have a great life growing up, or want to make sure that I don't become victimized by an online predator, a pedophile, a cyberbully, another classmate, in my own stupid decisions, and this is why they're doing it. And if I abide by these rules, then they're going to give me this device. And if I abide by these rules for a certain amount of time, then I can get more freedom and then more freedom. And so it establishes that idea in their mind that they can have a path forward to more freedom, which is in the end, that's what kids want. And, as a father of five myself, who, a couple of them are, well, they're not online. They're a little too young for that, but they are using video games, but as soon as they get one game or one app, they're wanting to get the next one. And so establishing that, how do you get the next one? Okay, great. You want the next game. All right. We have this contract. You abide by it for a certain amount of time. You can get that next game. It's the carrot, right? So we have a contract here. Let me pull this up. We'll kind of just go through this. And so let me see if I can increase that a little bit. Here we go. Okay. So this is available on the Cyber Safe Teen Nation page, Facebook group, Cyber Safe Teen Nation Facebook group, but it's available for download. And if you don't want this one, no problem. There are several, and I mean several different ones you can use to go. Just Google cyber safety contract. You'll find those as well. And so it starts out, there's a section for them, right? And then there's a section for you, and then the path forward, just what we talked about, right? So it's very, very, very simple. And they sign it. They sign their name up top. I agree to these terms. It's a real contract, right? Treat this as a real contract, and the child will respect it as a real contract. And it talks about these different things: how I conduct myself, what my parents know, my current passwords, and it goes on from there. We'll talk about here in a second. But in the end here, it says lost for whatever, right? Lost for 2. And the second P would be days, 2 weeks, whatever you come to an agreement on. And now number 1 maybe not be as bad or more serious than number 5 or 7 or whatever. So you can change these things. So if they put an app on that they didn't ask about, maybe that's one type of punishment. Now, if they're communicating with people that they don't know, maybe that's a different punishment, more severe. And so you can really customize this to meet your family's need and to meet what you're going through. And so, number 1, obviously you want them to conduct themselves. But number 2, think about this. My parents will know my current username and password. This can be nothing more than keeping a piece of paper with the apps, with the programs they use, social apps that they use, and they can put these things on there for the username and password. And here's why this is so important. I've worked many cases where children went missing, and probably 99% of the time, especially in the mid to late 2000s, but where the child is missing and social media is involved, either in the planning, either in the grooming, or some part of that, to where the parents or the social media was used to get the child out of the house or to plan their runaway. And so for law enforcement, finding that information, finding out who they're talking to, finding out where they're going is vitally important. And if you have that username and password, law enforcement can go right in right then and get that information. Even if they can't get the information off their device, they can contact, say it's Facebook or Instagram, TikTok, these different types of things. And they can say, hey, we have a missing child. Here's the username. Here's the password. Here's the account information. Help us find them. And they can start working right then. But if they have to go back and try to find, well, who's this person? What's their account? What's their email they're using? It can take minutes. It can take hours or even longer. We don't want to take hours when minutes are really mattering. And so make sure you have that username and password and they're updated. Also, their agreement that they won't change their password. Who are they going to communicate with? And this can change as they get older, right? Maybe if they're adolescents, they can only communicate. So you're using like a Facebook Messenger. for kids, and they can only communicate with friends and family that you approve. But now, as they're preteens and teens, maybe they're on different apps, and they can talk to more people besides just your people that you approved. And when they're 18 or 16 or 17, maybe you lift that, however, how much trust that they have or you have in them. And really, we want them is this right here, right? We want them, if someone has contacted them, what are they supposed to do? And this is part of that communication. We're educating them as well as keeping them safe. So we're educating them. If somebody who you've not met in person and not approved by your parents, I'll not respond to them. So if you have strangers, you're letting them know what they're supposed to do. Don't respond to them. Don't download apps without your approval. Doesn't matter if they're innocent apps, as innocent gets. Just the fact that they're not supposed to download without your approval sets that boundary like we're talking about. Obviously, we don't want them sending any type of illicit pictures, videos of nude or partially nude. And like that 7 would probably be one to where, a little stronger punishment for that. Or if they're asked to send these pictures, they'll immediately notify you. And we'll talk about that here in just a second, a little bit more in depth. And while you're driving, obviously, if they're not old enough, you can take this one out. You're not harass anybody. And here is another big one. I'll put my phone up at night. If you get nothing else out of this and you don't even do a contract, if you will take your child's phone at night, they will be at least 33% safer. Now, why do I say that? Because if they sleep for 8 hours, that phone's up, nothing can happen to them during those 8 hours. Right? So your child can get more sleep, which we're seeing a big increase in children who are just exhausted because they've been up all night. The predators cannot attack them. They cannot reach out to them during that time. And the bullies cannot reach out to them at that time either. And so if the phone's going off at 2 a.m, then now something may be going on. So putting that phone up at night, and we call it putting the phone to bed. And then they will agree to provide your inspection, or the phone or device for your inspection. And then you say whether it's anytime you want to or whatever your kind of guidelines are. And this is why this is important. You don't have to have a great knowledge of computers to inspect their phone. You just need one thing. That's your thumb, right? Get their device, make sure that the username and passwords work on the apps that you're most concerned about. Click on the apps, make sure that they are the real apps that they say they are, and check the messaging. If you can just do that, your child will be much safer because 2 reasons. One, you're going to start to understand better the apps and what they're using. And also you're going to be able to know that your children's going to know that mom and dad are going to be checking this at some point. So I probably don't need to talk about things I shouldn't talk about, because someone may respond back with something and now mom and dad know what's going on. And that kind of wraps up what the kids or what their responsibility is. For you, you are agreeing, you put whoever's, whether it's mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, whoever, can put their names on here. You're signing it just like a real contract. If you keep the agreement, you will provide them with a phone or mobile device or tablet, whatever you are providing them with, gaming system. And here is probably the most important part of the whole contract. So that if they will not lose their phone privileges or social media privileges, if they immediately tell you if somebody has asked them or they have is threatening them and they have sent these pictures or videos of themselves nude. So many kids that we're seeing are being extorted online, and they're afraid to tell mom and dad because they're afraid of losing their social media. They're more afraid of losing their social media than they are of the pedophile, of the predator online. And so having this kind of out clause is huge and very, very important. So they know that even I may be in a little trouble, but I will get that phone back eventually. But I need to tell mom and dad now, because if they find out, then I may be gone forever. And that goes back to number 3 there, that they will get it back eventually. Now, the path to more freedom, this is the carrot, right? If you abide by these things, if you do well, even if they mess up a little bit, kids are going to mess up. We mess up. So if they abide by these things, then let them know that they will at least, you're going to be inspecting their phone a certain number of times. And then the contract will be reviewed every so often. If there's no rules violation, then you will receive whatever they want. If they want a new app, they want 15 more minutes online, you will have that available to them. So now they have a goal. I want this new app. How do I get that? I abide by these rules and I get that new app. And we've seen this so many times. Uh, Stop fights with parents. Help the parents lead their children in the safe use of social media. And I think personally, I think this is the most effective tool that every parent can use. Doesn't matter if you are very techie or very technology just kind of overwhelms you. Either way, this is, in my mind, the most important tool every parent needs to establish in their system and how they're going to keep their kids safe.
One thing I do want to touch on is, Mike talked about how important it is to take your child's phone at night or make sure they don't use it at night, and to make sure you're checking their messages. And these are all things that Guardian is amazing for helping you with, because, even if you have this contract, there's still that moment where you're taking the phone from your child, and that there's going to be some potential conflict there. So with Guardian, if it's installed in your child's phone, you can set predetermined schedules. And so your child will know, like, every night at 10 p.m., the phone's just automatically going to lock. They can't use it. There's not going to be this as much of potential for conflict as it would be if you were just physically taking it away. Additionally, Guardian will also allow you to monitor your child's messages, both text messages from SMS and in the very popular social media apps. So you can keep an eye on your child and who they're talking to. And Guardian will also send you AI-powered alerts. So if you don't want to read every single one of your child's messages, which, some kids are sending literally thousands every single day, so what parent has time to do that? Guardian will scan all of those messages and alert you if there is anything concerning in them. So you can just have peace of mind knowing that the app is looking out for your child.